Outside the Book continues. I'm Barbara Deeb, joined now by Andrew Maraniss, who is, he'll tell you about the background, but the book is called Strong Inside. It's the story of Perry Wallace. Thanks for joining us,
Thanks for
Andrew.
having me, Barbara.
Let's talk a little bit, I said your background. You have writing in your DNA.
That's right. So it goes back to my great-grandfather was a newspaper printer. My grandfather, Elliot, was a newspaper editor up in Wisconsin. My father, David Maraniss, is an author, a Pulitzer Prize-winning author, and has written 10 books. And so now I guess I'm getting started in the family business now with my first book.
Was that something that you always had on the shelf, that one day I will write a book, or because Dad was so prolific and popular, maybe you turned the other way?
Yeah, exactly. There was a little bit of both. Growing up, I was always interested in journalism. High school I was a sports editor. I came to Nashville to Vanderbilt University on a sports writing scholarship, and I thought that was the direction I was going to go. But in some ways, like you alluded to, I didn't necessarily want to compete with my own dad, so my professional job now, I'm in public relations, which is a little bit of the different side of the coin, I guess, but I love writing, I love sports and history, and so I saw the opportunity to do this book, and I've never had more fun doing anything in my life.
Really?
Yes.
And the book is about a man called Perry Wallace. Fill us in on those that may not be familiar with who he is.
Sure, and most people in the country have no idea who this man Perry Wallace was, but the shortest way to say it is that he was the Jackie Robinson of the Southeastern Conference. He was the first African-American basketball player in the SEC, played at Vanderbilt University in Nashville in the late 1960s. And when you think about the place and the times that he was operating in, the Deep South during the turbulent period in American history, I feel like his experience as a sports and civil rights pioneer is every bit as challenging as Jackie Robinson's was. And everybody knows the Jackie Robinson story with the Brooklyn Dodgers,
Sure.
but very few people know anything about Perry Wallace.
And as we explore the book and learn more about Perry Wallace, he really made a difference in that world.
He sure did, and it was not easy in any way. And one thing I wanted to do in this book is put people in his shoes and see the world through his eyes. We hear about these pioneers and we recognize the benefit that their experience had for all the rest of us and for society, but what did it take for the individual who was put in that position as a teenager, to face the abuse that he did around the Deep South, trying to make the country live up to its ideals. This is a place for everybody to succeed, and this is a guy who was valedictorian of his high school class, was a trumpet player, was a singer, spoke many different languages. He was a Renaissance man, and yet he saw the worst of human nature merely because of the color of his skin as he traveled around the South as a basketball player.
I have to ask this, do you think that we do a not so good job of teaching our children about the importance of life through our superheroes? I mean, sometimes we put our sports figures on too high of a pedestal.
Yes. Well, the term superhero, Perry uses it to describe his existence on the Vanderbilt campus, and he'll talk about him being a superhero / nobody. And on the basketball court, he was a superhero, and at least on the home games, people were cheering for him. But he stepped off the court, he was nobody. He felt invisible on campus, ignored on campus, as one of the few African-American students. And he's not the type of person, the other aspect to your question, who lives off of his athletic glory.
Right.
Today he's a law school professor in Washington, D.C. He was an attorney for the Justice Department for a number of years. You go into his office, there's not a trophy or an action picture or an old award that he won from basketball. You would have no idea that he once played basketball, and it's much more important to him that he graduated with a degree in engineering and engineering math and earned his law school degree from Columbia University than it is that he played college basketball.
Wow, what a great story. And if you want to find out more, of course, you can go into the pages. It's called Perry Wallace, Strong Inside, and the Collision of Race and Sports in the South. We've been talking with its author, Andrew Maraniss.